Good morning, Samoa, and welcome back. No, welcome to, I suppose, originally Star Trek Discovery Season 5, Episodes 1 and 2, Red Directive / Under the Twin Moons. And as well, today we have to give a very special good morning to the residents of Gay Paris. And all of our French-speaking audience, I would like to wish you all a very special Je ne sais pas français. And, I would like to very kindly remind our French-speaking audience that this stream, much against its will, is hosted in the good old United States of A. The A stands for America, naturally. And that's very fortunate today. Because we're in America, I have been able to distribute a copious variety of firearms to all the non-French-speaking audience. And if there is any talk of, les prodigies, the prodigy, Star Trek prodigy, they will be used with reckless abandon. Yes, if you have not heard, Star Trek Prodigy has been released in France, in French, with French subtitles. If you do not je ne sais pas français, then you can go watch Prodigy, but we can't. Most of the world can't, so no Prodigy. I don't know what happens in it. Very thankfully, actually, I haven't seen anything other than the fact it's out. I'm very happy with, the France has been doing very well. But, yeah, I just wanted to get that out there. So no Prodigy talk. It's actually kind of disappointing that there wasn't an announcement for First Contact Day, because clearly the show is ready. I mean, they released it in France. It's clearly ready for release. But yeah, I was really hoping for something, but I'm kind of glad we didn't, because these beautiful new thumbnails, oh, look at that my wife drew, absolutely being ruined by the only 2 consecutive episodes in the entire series that do not fit on 2 lines for the thumbnail. But yeah, look at that gorgeous thing where those take some time, and we were not prepared to draw a Prodigy thumbnail. But yes, Discovery, the final season. It's actually an interesting one for these reviews, because I joined over here on YouTube with Discovery quite late. Season 4 was the first one we did, and Season 3 is the real interesting one when things changed. I, of course, very much liked Season 4. I don't think I've gone back and rewatched it. I did go and watch Season 3 at some point. I tried to rewatch it, I think for the Poorly Explained video I did. But I really couldn't get through it. Something about that rewatch. I don't know. But Discovery's been on a journey, right? It really has. The first 2... I'm here. I think I'm open to all opinions here. We want a voice, unless it's a sexist or racist. But people, I don't think there's a consensus on if you were to rank the Discovery seasons. From best to worst, for me, it's 4, 3, 1, 2, with a massive chasm between 1 and 3. But season 1, for me, was bad. I watched it when they aired it on CBS, to try and get people hooked so they'd buy the service. And I remember after finishing the first episode going, oh. And then I didn't buy All Access. I only went back to 1 and 2 once I bought it for Picard. But season 2, well, if you thought season 1 was bad, season 1 was like, all right, is like a series of television, not as a Star Trek. Season 2, it doesn't work on any level. And we're not here to talk about season 2. One day, I'm going to get around to it. But yeah, very, very bad. We'll come back to that. It's important that I didn't like seasons 1 and 2. Season 3, I did a lot of work on myself, like between 2 and 3. They're taking it to the future. A lot of the problems I had were the fact that, Discovery was a prequel. So I really actively went into season 3, like, intentionally crushing all my bias. They had a new producer, and it was good. I really liked it. That first episode had me tearing up when you got the guy who's talking about, like, I've sat at this desk every day for 40 years. Yeah, it was good. And yeah, there were still some problems, but making Burnham a captain really helped. This is also relevant, by the way. This speech isn't just there's a lot of setup. Here, let me get this up. It's because Burnham's captain was always, she had a lot of main character syndrome, kinda. She was like, screw whatever my orders are, I'm gonna do whatever I want. And making her captain doesn't fix that, but it hides it, and it works really well in seasons 3 and 4. Because as captain, she almost always gets to do whatever she wants. It's only when Starfleet tells her something else, and of course they made Vance a suck-up, who, no, that's harsh. They made Vance usually agree with her, so it wasn't really a narrative problem. You didn't fix the problem, you just kind of hid it away by making her captain. Season 4, I liked. A lot of people didn't, but I'm a sucker for a first contact story. I enjoyed it. And now we're on to Season 5. We're finally going to talk about this episode. I'll go peek at the comments. I'm going to focus on Red Directive first, and then when we're done with Red Directive, we're going to move on to the second episode. And again, I'm probably... I don't know, I noticed a lot. I usually like to do these things linearly, but having these 2 episodes simultaneously was very interesting, and I think I noticed a lot about the structure of how these episodes are formatted, and I think especially how this season's gonna go, that I wouldn't have noticed if I had a week between them. Yeah, Jack Slaw, David C., welcome. I don't know if David C. is still here or if he popped in a little bit ago, but I'm sure he'll show up eventually. Jack Slaw, you feel like the older Star Trek was about growth of who you are as people, and nowadays new Star Trek is about just being okay with who we are as people, and that means the future is just shit forever, and that's sad. Actually, right, because I see what Discovery is doing. But it's what they've done, actually since season 1, to varying success, but Discovery's goal... No, let's take a step back. Classic Star Trek, except maybe TOS, but that's just because it's old. Classic Star Trek was very much, even I think Enterprise, about we live in a utopia, and this is what sort of a utopian world should look like. This is what, like, the perfect sort of person would do. If you want to picture Picard, it's almost like the perfect person. What would Picard do? Like, what would the utopians do in this situation? That is classic Star Trek. And that's what drew a lot of people, why a lot of people have been drawn to it. Even Deep Space Nine is almost like what would Utopia do if you threw it in a war? What would Utopia do if you put it in a wider galaxy that isn't utopian? But we've had a lot of seasons for that, and I think there's room for other things to still keep Star Trek's kind of happy utopian vibes. But Discovery, and I actually like this. Once I started understanding it, I think around season 3 and 4, I got it. Is Discovery is saying, Discovery is showing us how to get to utopia. That's their goal. Like, it's all well and good, to be, this is what utopia should be, but you need to get there, right? It's not really useful to know what utopia should be if you don't know how to get there. And so a lot of Discovery is giving us these characters with more flaws, and these characters who actually have a lot to work to that are really relevant to now. A lot of them have emotional traumas of some sort, or like difficult relation things, and it's like, here is how you should be handling these things. It's giving us, to say the imperfect world, but it's showing us how to move it towards utopia. And conceptually, I think that's really valuable. And I really think there's room for Star Treks that do that. I mean, Enterprise probably has a lot of that, and Enterprise really should have been, especially with seasons 1 and 2. I have a lot of problems with the execution of that, but that's what Discovery's doing. And if you start kind of watching Discovery, it's a bit weird because they kind of almost reset every season. It's like every time Voyager does an episode with the Doctor, and like, is he a hologram? Is he like a person? Whatever. Janeway has to forget that the last time she decided the Doctor was a person. It's... but they do. Like, you can very much see where they're setting up all these people, and we're going to get to a point where, like, by the end of this season, we've gotten back to utopia. And season 3 was great for that. They literally, burnt the Federation and was like, here's why we get it back. They basically did Enterprise, just not as a prequel. So conceptually, I do like that. Yeah, the problem is it's... But I'm here to talk about this season. I don't want to spend too much on the early seasons. So let's just say it. These 2 episodes, right? I don't think they were great. I don't think they were bad. There's almost 2 worlds to them. I will admit, in episode 2, and I'll get into why, there were a few moments where I pulled out my phone. I did notice some things, some repeated, I don't want to call them tropes, but kind of structures to the stories that I don't think were necessarily the best writing. But there's still, I think, a lot of good stuff to enjoy, and I think a lot of the problems are just the sins of earlier seasons. I'm very happy to look at things now, like, the Spore Drive. Canonical nightmare, right? But you put it in the future, it's in the future now. I'm willing to look past what happened in the seasons 1 and 2. Like, yeah, Spore Drive, it's in the future. I actually think, here's some praise, this season, just these 2 episodes have done some really interesting things with the fact that Discovery spins. I really like, as much as I don't like this common intro, that when Discovery comes in, can I get it? They I don't know, but Discovery doesn't warp in from off camera. It jumps in, and I kind of like that. That's cute. You change it up a little bit because Discovery's different. There's a shot in one of these episodes where they're in the shuttle bay as Discovery jumps, and so you're looking out that window, and everything's kind of spinning and it settles, but no one in the ship is affected. I think they're doing some cool stuff with this Spore Drive now, and narratively, I get the purpose. It lets them jump around the galaxy. But yeah, as an example, I think I've had this complaint actually for a lot of opening scenes. But let's take this scene where they're at this dinner party. It was clunky. It was it's the first episode. Let's tell the audience what everyone's arc is. And what they're going to be dealing with this series. If it was just the thing with Stamets, I would have been like, that's not perfect, but I might not have even really commented. It's a hard thing to kind of set up. I think maybe he steps away from the party and gets a call. I don't know. But it's just kind of like Paul brings up that Stamets figured out. That's not the one I've got a big problem at. Then, Stamets says a bunch of things. He tells people about his legacy. He's upset about that. And then Burnham leaves, and Tilly just brings up, Stamets brings up, I shouldn't have talked about Book. And Tilly's like, oh yeah, audience. They haven't talked about him in months, and they haven't done all this, and this. Which is really weird, because the other episodes actually, show that a lot better. There's the scene where Burnham and Michael are like, hey, let's do that thing. You remember, Tarsus 4. That might be a Star Trek planet, a Star Wars planet. I don't know. But remember Tarsus 4, because they do that a lot, where they'd say, you remember this adventure we went on? Which is still a little tell, don't show, but let's move past that. And they got it wrong. They said different things, and it showed that they've drifted apart. They're no longer thinking as one. They don't finish each other's sandwiches. That was well. And there were a lot of stuff in episode 2 that set that up. So this was weird, clunky dialogue. I don't know, it wasn't a good start. But that's just one scene. I tried, especially with these first episodes, to really not start with the negatives. But I think, there are a lot of positive scenes. The kind of through line is there were some oddities in editing, in some scenes. In the dialogue, actually, there were a few scenes where I kind of struggled to kind of get in there and start engaging with the dialogue. I don't know. I'm trying to find, what's that scene where Tilly is just in the academy? What was this scene? I was really confused by this scene. Tilly, apparently drunk, is going home with, I think, a coworker? It might have been a student? And I don't know. There were just a few things that were weird. And okay, pace your negativity. Let's go to the comments for a bit. Yeah, no, that season 3 stuff Jack saw. I quite liked season 3. By the way, I went into season 3 thinking I would hate it as much as I really had to fight against, let's go in with an open mind. I didn't think they could do Starfleet design that far in the future. Like Voyager was struggling with it, and it's now my favorite era of Starfleet design. I didn't think they could do a the Federation's been destroyed storyline, and I think they made it work. Like I went in with an open mind, and I'm very proud how hard I worked, but I thought for sure I would hate that season. It's crazy. But I mean, I can understand it. I think the main problem, right? Let's start with this overarching thing. Discovery, with these 2 episodes, it seems this very much wants to be about its characters. Particularly this first episode, but I think the second didn't really progress a lot of the story. And we'll get to the story, the scavenger hunt. Across these 2 episodes, first off, we learn that they gotta fetch something. At the end of episode 1, we learn what that something is. All right, that's fair. In the episode 2, we learn they gotta go to Trill, I think. That's kind of the revelation. It's very slow. It's very slow because most of these episodes are the characters. The characters are talking to each other about what they're going through, the start of their arcs. You're having a lot of character scenes. And this isn't inherently bad. I think the problem is I have never cared about any of Discovery's characters except the relationship with Saru and the Vulcan president. I really like that one. And I praised this so hard in season 4 because I love the Vulcan president. I think she's the best Vulcan depiction we've gotten, because the reunification of Vulcan and Romulus lets the Vulcans actually really embrace like Surak's teachings, and just as a society really understand how to meld logic and emotion, which is what Surak was about. And so she has a leg up. But I think they're absolutely nailing it, and I'm kind of invested in that. I like that. I like seeing that. But when that's the only one I care about, that's when I pulled out my phone. I'm just not as interested in the characters. There were a lot of points where I wanted to get back to this story and this plot, which you can complain, I think I probably did complain in early seasons that Discovery was plot. But that's the problem. This isn't so much a problem with season 5 as seasons 1 to 4, and especially the early ones, failed to get me invested in the characters. Oh, look at that. I forgot to record the live stream. I've got a lot of these I need to download. Sorry. Yeah. It failed to get me invested in the characters, and so now, when we're in the final season, 5 seasons, 7 years of these characters, I should be really invested. I'm just kind of not, and they're working under the assumption that I am invested. So that's one of the problems, and it wouldn't be the worst thing if the balance of plot to emotion was better, which I think is the other problem, because you can say, it's the classic things, the fans are never happy, because a common criticism is that they want more time for the show to breathe. It was plot, and we wanted these shows to breathe. And I think most of the series have struck that balance well now. But I think Discovery might have overcorrected, or like the plot, at least in these 2 episodes, is more set dressing for their character work. Because it was so much character work. But my real problem was, if you notice, this is what I noticed with having the 2 episodes back to back. And it's why I was saying before, where there are 2 modes to Discovery. I'm going to actually pop over to the second episode for this part. There are 2 modes for Discovery. There's the plot, and there's the character stories and the character arcs. I will acknowledge this. Thank you, David C., for the $20, because I'm about to go in the long rant. Not rant, discussion. Agreed, the character development was so poor from the beginning that I just don't care about any of their interactions. And it's a shame that Saru, I don't care, I'm not super invested in Saru as a person. I was more interested in, I liked seeing Saru and the Vulcan president interact, and it's unfortunate that while we are kind of focusing on their relationship, we're not focusing on them interacting, at least in these 2 episodes. But I'm sure we'll get it. I'm sure I'll have some fun there. I think the problem is the structure, because if we had the plot and the character stories working together, I don't think I would mind. Because I mean, I've watched shows where I don't particularly care about a character, but I still enjoy the show. I think part of it might be we're telling one story across the span of 10 episodes. We'll have to see. That's something we'll have to see how the episode comes out. Like at the end, do I go, is this a plot we could have told in 2 hours? And it was bloat? Or was it just what I'm about to get into, that the way we go from plot to character, these 2 stories don't work together. In something like TNG, at least, the good episodes, or most shows, I don't know how exactly to describe this, but you'd see them, they'd be going on this adventure, this sci-fi adventure, and you'd have what the characters are going through and the character-focused bits kind of woven into that. Very, very naturally. Honestly, I think the best example is to say it's not what Discovery doing, which is Discovery has those 2 modes, character and plot, and they switch between them because they're talking about the plot, and then a character interrupts with something character-driven. And they're talking about the character stuff, and then the plot interrupts that. That's how we transition. It's a very sudden thing. Not every time. Not every time. That is fair. But it was enough that I started to notice, and I'd even probably say a majority of the time, acknowledging there might be some selection bias in there, or memory bias. I notice the times it happens, but not the times it doesn't. If you ever watched Chris Chibnall's Doctor Who, which I will point out this is much better than Chris Chibnall's Doctor Who, especially JXC's The Fall of Doctor Who video, which is fantastic, by the way. Even if you don't watch Doctor Who, JXC's The Fall of Doctor Who, it's 5 hours, but it's a fantastic lesson on, good writing versus bad writing. There's a running joke JXC makes in her video where character time is over. It is now time for plot. Because that's how Chris Chibnall kind of wrote his Doctor Who, was they would be talking about something character-driven, and then someone would get interrupted, and the plot would happen. Hey, look at that. I wonder why we're on this scene. You're walking through the desert, not the desert, the jungle, and you're talking about, relationship stuff, I think, whatever. That itself is fine. Your characters are on a journey to a place. This is a good chance to work in some discussion, some talk, some character work. I think the balance is a little off in this episode, but that's preference. How does this end, right? How does this discussion between Saru and Burnham end? The drones come out. Actually, sorry, no. Burnham notices some bones. Burnham goes, hey, hold on, what's that? Character time is over, time for plot. By the way, you know what I forgot to mention? There's a certain musical cue when we enter plot character mode, just like in Chibnall Doctor Who, and that was the signal it started to be to pull out my phone. Because there's a soft, in fact, I can probably play a little bit if I pick a random frame in the middle of character time.
That it's on Discovery and across Starfleet.
You hear that? Did you hear that? It's soft.
If I may
Actually, hang on, let's hide this.
offer a piece of advice.
There's very soft music. This isn't a bad example. Don't worry. I've got 2 others. Book walks in to talk about, he's here to analyze Mullen links. That's Book's job on the ship. Very quickly, after Burnham Book's like, hey, they're close, they're in a relationship. And he's clearly kind of thinking about Michael as he says that. The Doctor, who to be fair, remember, is the ship's therapist, kind of instantly goes into therapy mode and tries to help him out and talk about Burnham. And thankfully, Book does shut him down. It feels kind of inappropriate in this moment, but plot time was interrupted. It's time to talk about Book and Michael. After we do the bone thing, we get into the laser firefight. It's similar things, but hey, somewhere in here, Tilly and Adira Yeah, they're talking about Adira. She's got stuff's going on with her and Gray. How does that end? Oh, by the way, musical cue. Oh, come on, you're gonna pick the frame that doesn't have them. At some point, the music came in. Just trust me on this. How does this end? Oh, an EM flare. The panel starts beeping, and they gotta start talking about the plot. It's like a very, very instant transition, which isn't good to see so many times. And I jumped to season 2 because this one had 3 separate scenes, which all in quick succession had that simultaneous cut between the plot and the action, or the plot and the character work. And so because they're distinct, if I don't care about your characters, then when you're in character mode, it's dull, and I want to pull out my phone, and I can half listen because, well, honestly, you're going kind of slow. Like, that's the pacing error like thing. There's not a whole lot of development. In fact, across these 2 episodes, I think the only development in character work we really got was Burnham and Book officially kind of said they're not dating, which they weren't at the start, to be fair. And Saru and the Vulcan lady got engaged, which is big. But for how much character focus we're on, that's not a lot. We just kind of stated where the characters were at the start of their arcs. I've got behind on some comments. So Jack Slaw, look, I understand if you watch the Orville, they hit it hard. Our Trek is about taking your job over your own life. I will say that I have seen season 1 of the Orville. Never got to the later ones. Release it on Blu-ray. Come on. I'm going to skim over comments because I don't want Orville spoilers, but yeah, consistently switching between character plot and story plot. Maybe next time we get around to some watch-alongs, like with Doctor Who, I might point this out tomorrow with my brother. But it was just kind of clunky, and it was one of those extra kind of death by 1,000 cuts. So I don't want to say this series is being made poorly in like a mechanical sense, but it absolutely is not being made great. Some of them might be down to the fact it's streaming. Like, I'd love to know in the comments. Let's go back to episode 1. But whenever they did the special effects, I feel like it got really blurry. And I couldn't focus. Like, my eyes wouldn't focus on what's happening, and everything was blurry and fuzzy, as if they're trying to hide that the CGI is bad. Like, anything when Burnham gets ejected into space, like this stuff. Yeah, I mean, shaky cam. Oh, God, we'll get to the shaky cam. When Saru and Burnham are standing in that forest overlooking the temple. But I don't know if it's actually done fuzzy or if streaming was having trouble and like lowering the resolution, because they're all busy. I mean, look at this. This is a busy frame. It's hard for streaming. And even though I have fantastic internet, I got fiber now, people. The Paramount struggled sometimes. And I don't know if that's a problem with the show or a problem with Paramount Plus. But hopefully, I wanted to bring it up because it's one of those deaths by 1,000 cuts. Because I said before, did Discovery have to sell their camera mount? Because I'm not usually one who complains about like the nausea or the shaky cam. But I feel so many scenes had it unnecessarily. This one I wanted to highlight in particular. Oh, I'm sorry. I think I had my sound muted that whole time when I was trying to play music cues. Whoops. But I'll play some of this because this whole scene, it's slightly wobbly. It's moving weirdly. In fact, I think it might even have a slight fisheye effect where we're going around all of these items. The scene before, I want to say it's this one. I'm going to hide. I'm very cautious with the new episodes about just streaming the video. But this camera is like very bouncy, and it makes the whole frame kind of blurry. It's motion blur, because you're moving the camera, you're moving your eyes. And I never complain about this, but it got really distracting. There's the weird bit in this speeder chase where they do like a 3-way cut. There it is. Look at it. Here's something that took me out of the episode. What was this? Was this weird to anyone else? Like, I don't know. There were just a lot of weird little decisions. And the editing and the production. I don't know. Like it's not wrong. You know what I mean? That they're doing this, but it was just so weird when the screen split for me. However, I am going to knock 10 million points because your black at the top is a different color to this black, and that is very much bothering me now. David C., off-topic question. Did it seem like there was a lot of set redressing in their circular room that kept showing up in different scenes? There might be. I didn't notice. I will say, I don't know if it was season 3 or season 4. I think it might have been season 4. They got someone to do the interior design, the set work for like the starships. I think it is season 4. I adore their work. We recently got confirmed that Star Trek Academy will be set in the 32nd century in California, in San Francisco. They're moving it back. And they're building, actually, the largest set for a Star Trek production ever. So it's bigger than the Promenade, which I thought was actually the largest set for a show like ever constructed. The Promenade was massive. I can't remember the exact descriptions, but it's like some 2-level thing with a big courtyard, views out the windows of like the Golden Gate Bridge and all that. I desperately hope the guy that designed like the lounge, the rec room in Discovery, and a lot of these cozy bedrooms is doing that set, because it's going to go one of 2 ways. It's going to be the very cozy season 4 aesthetic, or, and this is what I noticed about this season, it's going to be this. In fact, actually, like Starfleet HQ, which is season 3. Very white, very clean, very clinical, and it's going to be a very massive, boring set if they do that. Maybe it's just because they went to Starfleet HQ a lot, as opposed to like inside ships, but I noticed a lot of this, which to me has always been very kind of generic sci-fi. This interior set of 32nd centuries, I'm not as clean on. It's very clinical, very sterile, not very homely. The decorations they're putting inside these sets are a lot more in line with what I see in season 4. So Tilly's, like, you got this lovely orange furniture, this right here, that is absolutely out of place in this white room. But all of this cup, this lamp, this table, this couch, these pillows, mwah, I adore it. So I think they might be reusing season 3 sets. So David C., there might be one big circle room they're just redressing, because I could see, I don't know behind the scenes if there genuinely is a different person who did the interior designs for seasons 3 and 4. But it feels like they have season 3 sets that the season 4 designer is doing the best they can to make look good. And I did notice that. In fact, I don't know if we saw any real cozy space this season. Like Shuttle Bay, it's the Shuttle Bay. It's allowed to be more mechanical. This is actually pretty good. But, you know, season 3 had a lot of this monocolor with blue lights. Or even mono hue. You got like white and black with blue lights. This is the white-black room with blue lights. Makes the uniforms look great, but, yeah. In fact, I think the Shuttle Bay might be a virtual set. I don't remember. The room took me out of the show a bit. Yeah, and it was disappointing because I adore. In fact, I'm going to get it up. Star Trek Discovery, a rec room. There's like a bar set. No, I want to see it. There's like a lounge and it's fantastic. Look at this. Yeah, it's this. Look at this. Like, I adore this bar set, and they've got like open flames. I don't know if that's That's not the right one. But they've got open flames. It's just so cozy and orange. It's dimly lit, but in a cozy way. Actually, I've just realized it's my living room. This is good. This is really good. And these, in fact, aren't even great photos because I don't think they've got a lot of the set work. And so it was disappointing seeing a return to the Season 3 style, but maybe it's just because they've got the Federation HQ sets, you know? But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if they've got the different screens. Some, like, circle set they're reusing. It all looks cool, but there's no life in space show. I think there is in Season 4. Season 3 is not. You're right. Season 3 is very cold, mechanical. Season 4, they do it up. I mean, Season 4 has a lot of this stuff. It's alien. It's very kind of Star Wars and Jakku sort of vibes, but with these lovely oranges and tarps. They're nice. I don't know. I mean, it is preference, ultimately. But shall we talk about the plot? The plot's interesting. So what order do I want to do this in? I will say I'm actually engaged with the plot. There's not a lot of it, but I kept finding myself wanting to go back to the plot because I like the scavenger hunt mystery. It feels mystery puzzle, but not mystery box. I also, and this is good, right? This is why I praise Season 3 of Enterprise for. The mystery isn't the focus. This isn't a season about the mystery. As much as I was complaining that was set dressing before, I think that's a balance issue between the character work and the mystery. What I praise Enterprise for, Season 3 with the Xindi, is it's never about the Xindi. Season 3 of Enterprise is never about the Xindi. It's a fun mystery. It is amazingly paced. You're always, like, exactly ahead or exactly behind where the characters are in the mystery. It's really well done. Like, I'll praise that mystery all day. But it is always, from day one, about how far will these utopians or Starfleet individuals, how far would you go when literally everything is on the line? It's a season about humanity, and that's why it works on a rewatch, where something like Picard Season 1 doesn't work as well because it's very much about its mystery, and when you know all the answers, it's boring. You know, you can keep going back to Enterprise Season 3 because it's not about its mystery, despite being an exceptional mystery. And I feel this is a good mystery. It's not one where you can really work it out, at least so far. You know, they got to go to Trill to find their video game puzzle piece. But I am engaged, and that's good. It's doing its job. I think it's serving the great job of being the story that our characters are going through. The problem is that the character work isn't entwined in that story well enough, at least so far. Yeah. And the parts of the character, what do show a life pass through, I would hate their life. It's just a bad show. So far, given these 2 episodes, I would not say that this season is bad. I don't think we've seen enough. I would not try and argue against someone who says it's bad, though. I'd go, yes, I'd say that's fair. Because I think it could probably improve because we're going to have episodes that are more driving the plot forward. We literally have to, but I don't think it's suddenly, there's too many weird little technical problems, and like this story was built on character moment, plot moment, character moment, plot moment, that that's just not going to go away completely. I'm actually going to look. Who wrote these episodes? It's a writer room, isn't it? Memory Alpha. I think Discovery's a writer room. I'm too used to Doctor Who, or it's literally like, yeah, I wrote this. Yeah, Memory Alpha doesn't say. Actually, let me open these, because I was hoping for a list of like who wrote the future episodes. Michelle Paradise, so that's the showrunner. And I got Doug with Alan McElroy. So 2 different people wrote this episode, but I expect, that's like a primary writer. I don't actually know how Discovery works, how Discovery is written. But the plot. I'd like to get us all on the same page here, right? I watched this scene, but because I can't exactly play it, I've got in front of me, bam, the transcript for The Chase, which is the episode where we meet, it's the episode we're talking about. It's the progenitors. And I just want to go over this so we're all on the same page, because I had a memory, and I checked, and I was right. So here's the big speech. You're wondering why we are here. Nope, you're wondering who we are, why we have done this, how it has come that I stand before you, the image of a being from so long ago. Life evolved on my planet before all others in this part of the galaxy. We left, but I'm just going to gloss over that part. We left our world, explored the stars, and found none like ourselves. Our civilization thrived for ages, but what is the life of one race compared to the vast stretches of cosmic time? We knew that one day we would be gone, that nothing of us would survive, so we left you. Here's the important part, by the way, 40 minutes, 30 seconds into The Chase, Season 6, Episode 23? It's 20, just 20 flat. This is what they're after. Our scientists seeded the primordial oceans of many worlds, where life was in its infancy. The seed codes directed your evolution towards a physical form resembling ours. This body you see before you, which is, of course, shaped as yours is shaped, for you are the end result. The seed codes also contained this message, which was scattered in fragments on many different worlds. It was our hope that you would have to come together in fellowship and companionship to hear this message. And if you can see and hear me, your hope has been fulfilled. It wasn't. You are a monument, not to our greatness, but to our existence. That is our wish, that you too would know life and would keep alive our memory. There is something of us in each of you, and so something of you in each other. Remember us. The rest of this live stream is probably going to be focused on that paragraph I just read. First notes, I think this is a side, bit of a tangent. I think this is the end of Stamets' arc. I think Paul Stamets is going to realize that the Spore Drive thing, he doesn't need that legacy because he is a legacy, or even potentially that Adira's his legacy, that his family's his legacy, or that he's part of something that's already so big. They're definitely going to do stuff with this. Discovery's a bad show if they don't. Like, this was about a species building the greatest legacy that the universe has ever known. And Paul is currently having a crisis because he doesn't think he's going to have a legacy. Episode 2 even had him look at Elton Soon and be like, centuries later, we're still talking about him. Maybe he's going to realize that whatever he does is small compared to this. I wouldn't like that ending too much, but this is absolutely going to be like the resolution to his ending. First note, right? I like this story. Let's get in mind, and it hasn't unfolded yet. I don't understand what the big deal is. I understand why you want this. It's like a good repository of scientific information. I don't understand why this is red directive level of secrecy. First, the show seems to think that the precursors created life. They didn't. Life already existed. It was the primordial oceans. They were just way too early. The progenitors, were too early to hang out with the life. So they committed what the Federation would probably consider a crime, like the greatest crime ever committed, and just made it so every species looked like them. That is impressive. You know, that's a lot of evolution to fight against, to turn like a protozoa into a humanoid. But that's just genetic engineering. Advanced, probably the most advanced genetic engineering in the galaxy. But, yeah, Best of Trek, Birth of Trek, good you're here. I I don't understand. They're always like, can you imagine what the technology could do in the wrong hands? And I'm like, genuinely no. I'd love to hear some theories. Because the obvious thing, right? I think they're afraid of like bioweapons, genetic weapons that like drop a bomb that targets this whole species. Or you could design a species that's like a super soldier, right? And you could clone them, you could build them really fast. Neither of those are actually what this technology is, but I'm sure with the knowledge of this technology, you could build weapons. In Strange New Worlds, warp drive isn't a weapon, but some pre-warp species saw, like, the Red Angel incident and figured out warp and built a bomb out of it. That's, like, the first episode of Strange New Worlds. The problem is, I don't see anything you could do with this technology that the major powers of the galaxy couldn't already do, basically just as well. Here's the real worst part. I don't see what you could do with this technology that the major powers of the 24th century couldn't do. Like, at the very least by Prodigy, the Federation has genetic engineering. They could become, like, gods of DNA if they wanted. They just make it illegal. I don't know for sure about the Klingons and the Romulans off the top of my head, but they don't seem strangers to it. Pre-burn, the Federation, the Klingons, and the Romulans are the same species. I don't know. We could make Tao. Like, what? I genuinely don't understand what the danger is if this falls into the wrong hands. Like, if you give it to a pre-warp civilization, maybe. Like, if you gave it to us now, that's a problem. But we're not gonna give it to a pre-warp civilization, I just don't understand. Maybe I'm like, okay, the Romulans made it a secret back in the day. But I don't understand. Like, I could see, the Romulans, that's the thing they do. They'd hide this. It's advanced genetic tech. They want it for themselves. I just don't understand. Like, there's got to be more. But the Federation doesn't know if there's more. The Federation believes all it is. Maybe they know something we haven't revealed. But I think that's a problem. If there's something that makes this all make sense that they haven't revealed. Because right now, as an audience member, I'm just confused. I'm willing to kind of accept it to the story. It's not like story shattering, but I don't understand the urgency. I'm just trying. I can't think of anything you could do that you couldn't currently do. Maybe slightly slower and worse, And even then, anything you could do with this, I don't see how it can be countered with the technology that, like, the Federation has right now. In fact, especially in the 24th century, but even now, this seems like a medical miracle. Like, it's just a piece of knowledge and scientific, in the same way that nuclear physics isn't a weapon. You could use nuclear physics to make it a weapon, or you could use nuclear physics for infinite clean energy, or, a whole bunch of good stuff. It's just scientific knowledge that is... I don't know. I think I've made my point. I think I've made my point. But if we just accept, the Federation wants it. Were there other points? Hang on, let me take a glance at that script. Yeah, I hope they don't outright contradict anything that was in the chase. Like they say, oh, the progenitors created life. I'm like, no, I just watched that scene. Like, you don't even have to change that. It's still impressive. But I really hope, right, that the progenitor's existence isn't what was classified. I hope that's just known. But Discovery didn't know about it because they're from the past, and it just didn't come up, you know what I mean? Because I think that'd be a real disservice to the idea and the chase, that I think the progenitors would want to be known about. I mean, well, they do. I think that could do nothing but good if knowledge that we all have this shared heritage I can't see that doing bad, and I can't see it doing anything but good, especially over time. And I can't see why it would have been made secret, especially the Federation would have made it secret. Say nothing of the Cardassians, Klingons, or Romulans. With conspiracy theories, one of the biggest things is like aliens are real, but the government is hiding it from us. Like the biggest debunk against that is, do you see how hard it is for like the governments to agree on things that are in everyone's interest? Like, could you imagine the United States, Russia, China, like all those big rivals, every government in the entire world, unanimously getting together and collectively agreeing to keep the greatest secret mankind has ever known secret and unknown across multiple regimes and potentially even multiple centuries? It's kind of like that. I really hope the progenitors aren't a secret. It'd be disappointing, but I wouldn't be chattering. Other thing, right? I think the way I'm seeing with these episodes, I'm afraid this season is going to become The Chase, but 10 hours long. And I'd be disappointed because, for one, The Chase, I don't think you can stretch across a 10-hour story. But it really seems like they're going that way. The Chase was a fantastic episode about essentially we're all the same, in the end of the day. We're all the same. And this species had this great hope, this vision of like all peoples just living in peace. It built this puzzle that it thought could only be solved if the galaxy cooperated, if all its children cooperated. And then you get these factions, the major powers, the Klingons, the Federation, the Romulans, and the humans, who fought tooth and nail, fought their hands to get here, to some weapon, to some advanced technology they could use to gain power or to keep it away from others. And they find this beautiful, heartfelt, congratulations, you did it. You achieved world peace, essentially. We're so proud of you. And even the music in that moment goes like kind of dark. It goes, oh, and you see the looks. Yeah, screw it. I don't have myself set up to just screen my desktop, but I get these look on especially the Federation's faces. It's like, we don't deserve this. We're not. It's just shame. And it's essentially a story of like we're all the same deep down, and we need to work towards that because like it's possible. It's a great story, and especially the end where, the Klingons and the Cardassians are like, that's it. Like, it's just completely on deaf ears. But you get as well the Romulan who later calls Picard, and he doesn't really say so much, but he's kind of like, it looks like maybe we're not so different in, what we think or what we fear. Perhaps one day. And that's why it goes. And him and the Romulan are like, just perhaps one day, I think Discovery could do something great building off of that. Like, hello, here's one day where the humanity, Klingons, Romulan, Vulcan are all living together under the United Federation. I think even the Cardassians are in here. Here's the one day. I think we could do something great with that. But The Chase was a bunch of separate powers going on what I would describe, I don't know, as say a scavenger hunt, collecting artifacts, and in this case it was DNA, that eventually led them all simultaneously to one end game where they learned there was nothing except the knowledge that we're the same and the friends we made along the way. And that was The Chase. I'm concerned that the start of this season is currently 2, but allusions to an increasing number of people going on what promotion is described as a scavenger hunt, in direct opposition of each other with conflicting beliefs and morals, with a lot of our cast currently dealing with problems that, hey, These two are in a relationship. They like each other, but there's conflict. Adira loves Gray, but is enjoying being alone. These two are, I don't know, just thrill seekers. Heck, Stamets is struggling with his legacy, and how does he make his mark on the world so people remember him? And it really seems like we're gonna end with the scene from The Chase, which is just a remake of a great episode that didn't need a remake. If we're remaking The Chase, we can do nothing but fall short. Even if they nail it, it's still an imitation, because The Chase nailed it. And, there's even talk wider in the Federation that, like, what the Federation needs now is the unity and the cooperation. And I think we could really tie these in a satisfying way that is, The Chase said maybe one day, here's the day. Like, unification. It was literally called Unification 3, where we had the arc in TNG that was all maybe one day, Spock and these Romulans that are working underground are working in the hope that one day Romulans and Vulcans will live together again. And of course, we had the loss of Romulus, and Discovery went with that and said, this is the day. They even showed the clip of Spock with Burnham in that connection going, he did it. It was that win that you have Navarre, and you've done such great work with the culture of the Vulcans. And I don't think it's the same culture, the Vulcans and the Romulans, but the growth of both. I mean, the Vulcans finally learning and understanding Sirach's teachings after a good millennium, and embracing their emotion and letting their emotion inform their logic. They're no longer trying to become emotionless husks. They're learned how to have those go hand in hand. And the Romulans finally ditching centuries of mistrust and secrecy and learning to trust and embrace others and still maintain their fundamental identity, but be a part of something bigger. You could do that with The Chase, but I'm just really worried that we're just having The Chase again. Which, especially as a send-off for Discovery, I think would be disappointing. I think it would. Best of Trek, worst of Trek, there does seem to be where we're doing The Chase the whole season. We're already episode 2. Feels like it's running out of steam. I wouldn't say it's run out of steam. I think it's failed to get going. And I am worried that's because we're doing The Chase. And The Chase is not a 10-hour story. I'm worried we're cutting so hard between plot and character mode because the character mode only exists to extend the plot, to make the plot longer. I could be wrong. I don't think I'm wrong that there's going to be a pacing issue. That the question is this plot 2 episodes? Is it 6? Is it 8? It's not 10, but what is it? Is it 10? But like Picard, they just backload it all, and in the back is really just plot, which ironically might make it my favorite part of the season. There's some concerns, and especially getting their first piece. Hey, let's pop over to episode 2. Screw analyzing both episodes individually. There wasn't a lot to it. I liked the story. I liked the puzzle. It felt a bit weird to jump straight to Betazoid, but I'd be worried if all 6 pieces are this, because this one was nothing, and they don't all have to be some big adventure. Some of them can be character focused. One of the big problems is I just don't care about the characters. If I cared about the characters, I'd have much nicer things to say, I'm sure. Maybe Adira and Gray will be good, because we'll probably be doing that. But I don't know. Adira's a fascinating character. Adira's supposed to be my character, right? I'm non-binary. Look at that fantastic art. Adira's supposed to be for me. I have a great video title. I don't know if I'll ever make. Adira's coming out was bad and why that's great. Adira's not exactly for me. Adira's for the people who are questioning or kind of unsure of their gender identity. But I liked Adira in season 3. They were the first character I think I found interesting. I enjoyed their story. I could engage with them. They were competent, they were intelligent, but they were vastly out of their depth and unsure what to do with their Trill hosts, with this experience, the fact that Gray's one of them. And then something happened where we didn't resolve that storyline because Gray didn't get a body till season 4. But between seasons 3 and 4, Adira seemed to lose everything about their character except that they were nervous. And I don't like Adira's character now. She's such the Adira now in seasons 4 and so far 5, they haven't done anything to change my mind, feels like a character who's written to be kind of nervous and unsure so that they'll be relatable to people who are nervous in what they do and unsure themselves. A sort of, especially, I suppose, like a teenage-ish, young 20s, maybe age, and especially if they are questioning, if they're non-binary, unsure of their gender, trans, anything LGBT. But there's no extra depth anymore to that insecurity and like nervousness. They just became nervous and they seem to become a less competent officer. There just seems to be nothing more to that character, and it's such a shame because I liked them in season 3, and it felt like such a downgrade from what was actually really good, not only representation but also a good character behind it. But who knows? Maybe we'll get more season 3 Adira. Oh my goodness! Look at his hands, sculpted there. Well, this one is so far Star Wars fans. They're taking cues from Disney. I will not comment because I haven't seen any Disney Star Wars shows. They're not thinking about what makes Star Trek good or what people want to be what's on screen. It's a problem in the writers' room for sure. Discovery's definitely sort of been its own thing. Done a lot of its own thing. I find it funny that even though this was pitched as a low-key scavenger hunt, the trailer says like the most important or the most critical a good 7 times. It's like a 5-minute trailer. Discovery be Discovery. I struggle to say that these 2 episodes are Star Trek, not because I think they aren't, but because they were just kind of empty. We had the start of like 5 separate character threads in the basic outline of the plot. And that's kind of what we had. I don't know. Jack Sly, I know you're often very strongly... you strongly don't get along with a lot of these modern shows, I think is the way to put it. Whereas it's very show by show, but generally I'm on board with a lot of it. There's stuff I like, stuff I don't. If we're talking about every series as a whole. But, I agree. So far, I'm not terribly impressed by these 2 episodes. By the way, side note, meta note, what's better? Do you like just looking at this thumbnail while I talk, or these random screen caps? Because, especially with Discovery, I'm often not talking about some specific thing on screen. I might try and get, like, a camera again, get my face on so it's a bit more dynamic. Takes up more space on the hard drive, but I don't know. I always try and think about that sort of stuff. Let's see what screen caps. All right, you like the screen caps, even if it's like Saru's hands. Oh, I'll say actually Vance. I always really liked Vance. He's kind of just like he's a good guy in a tough situation trying to do the right thing. Vance is a character I've always really liked. I don't think we'll get a lot of him this season. And actually, I will say, I like how this room is decorated. It's minimalist, but this is making the white work. Yeah. Cause up a photo roll of the current episode picks, not when I watch the episodes an hour before I go live. I finish this 15 minutes before I go live, and that's like 50% more than usual. I like to have things fresh in my mind when I go into these. I think we're going to transition now into doing a bit of a scene by scene. I've gone back to episode 1. Whoops, I have dropped my credit card. Don't question why I'm fiddling with it. In fact, I'll put that down. Let's do a scene by scene. Let's see what jogs my memory, because I'm sure there's a bunch of stuff I haven't talked about. Hello, Tilly. Thank you for reminding me with your very... I don't know what expression that is, Tilly, but you're not happy. I think Discovery overall has a bit of a problem with committing to consequence. We know this is its last season, and we know that Discovery did not know that. But, last season you sent Tilly off to the Academy, right? I assumed it was set up for the Academy show. But now, by episode 2, she's just, doing her science job on the ship again. I guess it didn't matter that she's a teacher. They don't need her. I don't know why we need Tilly specifically. I don't know what she brings that another officer who is, actually has that job couldn't be doing. Let alone Adira, she wasn't even particularly useful. She had to have some other commander come in and get her on the right track in these 2 episodes. But they wanted Tilly in the show. Saru, of course, was made a captain. I believe they had a reason for him in season 4 to still be on Discovery. But here, in this first episode, when Burnham assembles her crew, Saru's there, despite being a captain who probably should have his own ship. The Federation could probably use him. He's kind of redundant as a captain on Discovery. Of course, it's because, it's his last day, his last 2 days. We just don't know that yet. And they even set up, he's only going away for a couple months, which is weird because he's supposed to be a representative of an entire section of the Federation. It's really weird that he would only have this posting for a few months, that he would have to resign his Starfleet commission to apparently just come back a few months later because they wanted him in season 6. And that always has a problem. If someone's life is in danger, it can be hard to take it seriously, or if anything changes. Lower Decks, here we go, great show. It has this problem. I don't care that, Tindy's going off to do Orion stuff, because every time they've had a major change at the end of the season, give it, 3 episodes, and it's been undone. She's going to be back on the Cerritos, in 3 episodes. It's just another one of those little things. It's little death by 1,000 cuts on the structure of this show. I'm Discovery's ending, that's kind of sad, but I'm also not really that fussed about it. Best Trek versus Trek, because she knows the secret now, didn't want to expose other officers to read Directive level documents. Oh yeah, we're good. I forgot. Thank you for reminding me. There's more of the plot I haven't talked about. If I was young, I would hate her even more. Who, Burnham? Oh, don't worry. We'll get to some Burnham hate. They've undone. You know how I was complimenting how making Burnham a captain didn't fix, but indirectly made the problem go away? This episode undid that. Tilly is and has been my favorite character. Right, Tilly. Tilly is a controversial character. Tilly seems to kind of either be you love her or hate her. People either love or hate Tilly. I never really had a strong opinion on Tilly. She's a bridge crew of Discovery. You don't have strong opinions on those. But this season, right? I don't know how to describe it because she wasn't annoying. It's really weird. The question I want to ask is, has Tilly always been this Tilly and I just haven't noticed it? Or is she different this season? Because this season, not so much the start, but especially when she was in her quarters, admittedly drunk. And episode 2, when she's trying to solve a problem, I kind of wanted her to go away every single scene she was in. It's a little moment, but when she's got 2 crew members, her captain and her captain, for some reason, who are under fire. They're taking fire, and one of them says, "We're losing our foot." And she interprets that is someone's foot is like falling off. They've been shot in the foot. It's falling off. This is an intense situation. There's a firefight, right? What is her reaction? Oh my God. Whose foot? Is someone losing a foot? What? That's her reaction. Not, do you want an immediate beam out? Or like, just beaming them out anyway. Her reaction to her crew members are under an intense firefight. They are running for cover. One of them is losing a foot and is presumably immobile. Is to question and clarify nervously that someone's lost a foot, and without seemingly much an urgency or fear in her voice, more just like, what? You know, it's like if someone told her that, like, someone's moving all the containers of her favorite jelly out of the cargo bay. It's like, I'm sorry, what? You're moving my jelly? It's like, no, this is a more serious situation than this, Tilly. And there was just a few little moments like that. I don't know, just kind of every time she talked, I wanted her to stop. I don't know why. I've never hated Tilly, but something about this season, I don't know. I really didn't like her in these 2 episodes, and I don't know why. So best trick versus trick. Has Tilly just always been like this, and for some reason I now don't like her? Or has something changed? Her arc is to grow as a person, but not melt into the problems of just life. I agree. So why is she now like season 1 Tilly? I thought she'd kind of learned what she wanted to do and go to the academy. Like, again, getting this, it feels like every character is kind of reset at the start of every season. Because they need a new arc that's going to be resolved this season. And so in order, like, it's the Janeway doctor problem. Every time they have an episode, right, where, like, is the doctor a person or is he a tool? And Janeway's like, he's a tool. He's nothing more than a glorified tricorder. This is my Janeway impression. I'm working on it as I'm speaking. You hear it's kind of nasally. It's a little, I don't know. But, you know, and they go through the episode and she goes, actually, doctor, I'm sorry. I acknowledge you as a person. You're right. I'll do more to give you freedom in the future. Until next season, when the question comes up, something happens, like, does the doctor have rights or is he a tool? And Janeway suddenly, no, he's a glorified tricorder. What the heck do you mean? Like, she always goes back to that every time. Because if, like, there's not an episode if she thinks the doctor's a person. It just ends. The captain would go, no, he has rights. Go away. And I had problems with this. There were a few points in the episode where I felt things were happening. Oh, we've crossed the hour mark. And my voice is unhappy. The writers were making things happen because the plot needed it. I felt, not really severely in any individual case, but I felt that came up a few times. It's like she's new to the show every time she is on screen. I mean, well, that's my Adira problem. Adira had a great arc, a great personality, but when it went to season 4, she reset into a state that was less developed when we first met her. And is also kind of makes Tilly redundant. That might be why they got rid of Tilly. Is they're both just kind of nervous characters with not much to them, which means they make the other redundant. Quite frankly, for characters with so little going on, that is impressive. I would like to hear about why Tilly is the one you like most, best of Trek, worst of Trek. I'm missing Galera. I think it just, I don't know. A lot of people like her. You could look up Jack's Law discussion, because this comes up anytime Discovery's on, is like, is Tilly good or bad? Going on, love this Vulcan president. Casually introducing an infinity room without explaining or addressing it is a bit weird. But whatever. I don't know. That was a bit... You even comment on how it's theatrical. I don't know. Did you have another set, but like it fell through? That would be funny. But I mean, that's not a complaint. That was just weird. You know, I've never really paid attention. This frame I've landed on. This actually makes the Discovery Bridge look pretty good. It's a bit big, I think, especially for a ship of when it was designed. I'd maybe bring, like, these back and sidewalls a little closer. I still think it'd be good with carpet, but I like this. It's sort of big Defiant energy, actually. You know, the Defiant's a little ship. It's like big, your Galaxy-class Defiant. With the lighting here, and I love these uniforms. I adore these. Like, anything 32nd century aesthetic is top tier. I really need to buy 3 of these uniforms. Actually, 4. They make white, don't they? But this is actually a good set. I've never been a fan of the Discovery Bridge, but it's all about lighting with these things, isn't it? I knew, right? So I saw very little about these episodes before watching them, because as I said, I give it a few days. There's a chance for spoilers. I knew we returned. Actually, I've known for like months we've returned to some Romulan thing like TNG Deep Space Nine. I was wondering if it might have been the guy Cisco blew up to get the Romulans into the Dominion War. I also had an inkling it was the Precursors. We were doing Precursor things. It was a TNG Romulan thing. I just couldn't figure out what would be so important. I was trying to rack my brain for a Romulan-related episode, TNG Deep Space Nine, that would be potentially like Federation shattering. So I thought maybe it's the revelation that like Cisco engineered the Romulans into the Dominion War, which wouldn't have really been shattering because it was like 800 years ago. But I mean, I guess the resolution doesn't make sense that it's the genetic engineering tech. But I like that part of the mystery is like which episode. It's like I love this on Reddits for Star Trek and Doctor Who. People will often come on with like, I vaguely remember this episode from my childhood, and like 50 to 80% of the details are wrong. But what episode is it? That's a great game. That's a great game to slowly read those and try and figure out what episode it is. And that's what this was like. When they show Saru in full Stan's head and foot, he looks like a demon. But with hoofs, do you see it from there? Yeah, I like Saru's design. You know, it's humanoid but alien. It's like it's as far alien as Star Trek should kind of push its typical races, you know? Just because we've got these progenitors, most things are humanoid. It's very good Star Trek alien. You know. Oh, I had something to say. What was it? About Romulans. Oh, yeah. There's a weird line in here where I had to actually double check this. It's in episode 2, but Mox, you know, the tiefling from Baldur's Gate. No, Maul, sorry. Says, like, this artifact is Romulan. The Federation has no claim to it. I was like, what? Because even watching this episode, there's kind of a like cannon slap in the face where I realized, hang on, this is a Federation ship. Like, because the Romulans at this point in time, they of course are on Navarre, and Navarre is part of the Federation. The Romulans have a claim to this ship, which means the Federation has a claim to this ship. It was a really weird line, and I don't remember any, but I want to say there were a few points in there where they were just odd lines. Like, for example, the progenitors creating all life. I was like, no, they didn't. They didn't even design it. Like, Discovery seems to think that the Precursors sat down and, like, designed Cardassians and humans and Klingons. No, they didn't. They went to, like, the primordial oozes of, like, Earth and Kronos and Cardassia. And they basically put, like, something in the DNA that says, you're going to evolve into our shape. And the impression I always got, which is why I don't want them to change them, because I love this, is they let life kind of evolve for the planets and, like, how it wanted to, just forcing them into a particular shape. And I think that's kind of beautiful, is, like, they don't want to be alone in the universe. and they are, and they want to be known. They want people to know they existed, but they're not there to conquer life, to become gods. They're setting the message like, hi, we existed, we were here. And they do it in the hopes that one day all these future worlds, which are going to exist no matter what the hell they do, all these future civilizations which are going to evolve, and they know the galaxy's going to become busy at some point, to kind of give them something to strive for and be like, look at this, you're all the same. You're all different, but you're all still the same. You're from the same sort of fruit. You've got this common heritage, which is us. Like, Discovery seems to kind of say they became gods because they want to, but TNG is very much we were born too early to play, but we want you to know that we existed, and we want you to have a good life. That's kind of the precursors they always get from the chase. And I'll admit that some of this isn't so much canon is inserting or interpretation of what's said, but I've always thought that's real beautiful, and I really like that interpretation of the precursors. It's similar. I always like to think the precursors and the progenitors are the same species. The progenitors being the people who, I know the timelines don't line up, but they would pluck alien races who are in danger and plop them on different worlds. It's one of the explanations in TOS for why there's so many humanoids around, is they basically just plunk humans up and like plonk them around on different planets. And particularly the Paradise Lost, the one with the Native Americans. It's just like, yeah, they were in danger, America's moving westward. Some progenitors just plonked them up and put them on this planet, and that's why they're there. By the way, this is also what I like to think how the Romulans came to be, is the progenitors saw some Vulcans in, the time of Surak, or a bit before, when, Vulcan might have gone extinct, and they plucked them up and put them on Romulus, and it is an infinitely better explanation than the Lost Colony one that doesn't make any sense. Yeah, the Romulans just were Vulcans that evolved differently. It makes so much more sense, guys. Please just adopt that as canon. I hate the Lost Colony. It's like Spock randomly speculated seconds after learning that the Romulans looked like Vulcans. He didn't even know if they were related. He just knows they look the same. It was like, I don't know, maybe it was a lost colony. And now suddenly everyone takes that as gospel. And if there's one thing we know about Spock and TOS, that he is usually wrong. My throat is getting to me. Let's see, anything else in here? Yeah, like weird things. There's an unstable warp bubble, and the third ship can kind of merge with the other warp bubble just fine. Classic Discovery. I have no idea if this is an extra or part of the main cast. Is it Nelson? The woman who played Dot? The character's name is Nelson, but classic Discovery. I don't think I have too much to say. Yeah, I'm not invested in book. In Romana? No. Oh my god, Burnham. Why do I want to call Michael Burnham Romana? I covered that scene. Yeah, I don't know. I was just struggling. Maybe it's because it's a lot of characters I don't get in. I'm not as involved with. I was kind of struggling to get into a lot of this and involved. This confused me a bit. Oh, hello, complaint. Where you have the Soong type android. Until I realized, and yeah, later he confirmed, maybe he's just 800 years old, There's not a large window of time where they were making data like androids, but it exists. I think that's kind of fun. I think that's a fun idea. I'd like to see more synthetics who have just experienced all of the Star Trek we've seen. There's no ban in Picard. I know of no reason why synthetics wouldn't be around burn time as much as any other species. I'd love to see more. I think it's a clever idea. It was a little, hey, data's popular, let's use data. And we're leaning into some small world syndrome, but because we've never seen this before, I'm willing to accept it more. We just had a lot of name drop. Of course, the progenitors, which I'm okay with, is like your setup. But there's a third entry where they go to like the Promelians or something, which were the people who own the ship from the like Picard ship in a bottle. I actually thought they were a different species from TNG. But I hope, even though we're jumping to like a lot of worlds, next episode's Trill. I hope that every episode isn't just an adventure through Star Trek. Like, I guess you would go to worlds the Romulans would know about. But yeah, all right, that justifies it. But I don't, like, it's a whole galaxy out there. I want worlds that we don't know about and we haven't seen. On top of, sometimes we can go to Trill. And Trill's fun, because we never really explored Trill a lot. Ooh. Dang, I wish I knew we were going to Trill. Because I don't have time now, but I've had a video idea, because a lot of people don't like what they did with Trill in Season 3. They think they ignored Deep Space Nine, that, like, any Trill basically could have a host. I don't. I have a great little theory. That basically that knowledge was successfully buried and nobody knew. And so they're two of, like, I don't know. I'll go over it in the Trill episode. We'll see what Discovery does, but you could make satisfying Trill work. Everyone loves the Trill. Let's get some Trill plots. I just hope when they come back to the Soong android, it is a threat that is cool. I think he's dead. I don't think they're coming back to this guy. Bit weird, by the way, that, like, they basically just took his memories to get what they wanted. Like, they did say, let's see if he has any family. I feel like there's a kind of uncomfortable moral question here that I don't know the answer to, that could have been fun to delve into, but we just wasn't. Like, can you just extract the memories of a deceased? Because, like, without their consent? Because that's definitely immoral. But they are dead. And it is a crime scene investigation. But also, they're potentially trying to help the person out. I don't know. But the added thing, of course, they're synthetic. The only reason that we can do this is because this guy's an android who, every time we've seen so far, granted that was 800 years ago, is a marginalized community. Like, it could have been interesting. Like, I would have loved to get into that more. I acknowledge the episode might not have had time, and it's a tangent, but, yeah, also, it kind of bothers me that he's reading the book, but he's got his hand over, like, half of it. I've skipped over that frame. Oh, yeah, and, Fred here, was that his name? I'm gonna take all your weapons. I'm a shady black market dealer, right? So I'm gonna take all your weapons. I'm gonna have all my guards around. But, right, here's the kicker. I'm only gonna arm them with swords. Even though I have phasers. And I'm gonna instruct them to use their fists. Preferably. What? Here's one of the things that happened because the writers needed to. Why don't his guards have guns? Not even phasers, just like a revolver, something. What? Why? And when you watch this fight scene, when it first breaks out, there's a guy who just, look, he's holding a sword. Let's establish that. There's a cut, and someone's just, like, beating a shelf up. Oh, here's this weird scene. Does he work? Oh, yeah, it's a different time. The first time he grabs the gun, it seems to just not fire for some reason. But, yeah, I think it was earlier. There's some scene where a guy's just, like, beating a shelf. This this, you see this face right here? This is the face I was making watching that scene. Mild disbelief, but mostly amusement. That's, that was weird. Moving forward. Yeah, not too much going on, I think, for the whole rest of this episode. Oh yeah, Detmer exists. Here's that weird cut. We talked about that. Yeah, I think I want to take some time and address... God, I should learn his name. Chat, what's the name of the Vulcan/Romulan captain guy in this episode? The Vulcan guy. I want to talk about him. He's got a potential to be good. He's better. Okay, step back here. People love Shaw, right? He seemed to be something that generally a lot of people, most people, loved about Picard season 3. I cannot understand why. I do not like Shaw. He's like the one character who's new who I didn't like in that season. I'm weird. You know, every time I hear those headlines that they're like, we're not doing Legacy, I say, thank God. But I didn't like Shaw, right? And when we met this guy, like the first time he started talking, I think his first thing is swearing and like what he's doing on his ship. His whole reaction here, the speeder chase, his attitude. He's Discovery Shaw. He's the Shaw type character, who I really hope doesn't become an archetype in the Star Trek series. Now, he has more leeway than Shaw because he did most of his captaining like in the burn. You know, I'm not here to argue if what he did was right, wrong, or necessary. We don't even know a lot of what he did, but what's important is the organization he was working for and that culture, the Federation, told him, yes, it's okay. You know, this sort of stuff is what the Federation thinks it had to do back then. Where Shaw is just a dick. You know, this guy actually has reasons. He didn't grow up in Shaw's, you know, little utopia. And I like conceptually the character who's struggling to move on from the burn to a more established era. I mean, welcome to Star Trek Undiscovered Country, you know? And I think they do a lot of work here that Shaw doesn't get to kind of show this guy, come on, give me a frame with that guy. Good enough. This guy really cares about the Federation. You know, we have Vance, who at this point is a character that we actually do know, we trust, we relate to. Is like, he's a good officer. He truly believes in like these Federation utopian values. And I think I believe that too. But for one, he can be a bit obsessive about these two people who he knows, you know, it becomes personal. And he's still acting like it's cowboy times when it's not. And we now can acknowledge that what we were doing during the cowboy burn times was wrong. Maybe it was necessary, maybe it wasn't, but the point is now it's not. And, you know, he really grinds my gears because, first off, he gambles the lives of thousands on 70%, which isn't great, you know? That's like the odds that Shadowheart will hit their target with Fireball. And Shadowheart never hits their target with Fireball. I would not want to gamble my life that Shadowheart's Fireball is going to hit the enemy. Second Baldur's Gate reference, I know. God, I really hope at least one person in the audience has played Baldur's Gate, because that one audience member now knows that 70% is a terrible gamble. But his results, when it works, are... oh yeah, 70%. So, you know, results-oriented thinking. Never great. Like, I think I might end up liking him as a character. I might even like ending up as a person, depending on how far they develop him. But I'm actually, the more I'm talking, I like the concept of a character who's like Federation. He grew up with the Federation in a dark time, and he's struggling to learn with how to go into the light time. You know, I'm actually gonna skip ahead to episode 2 here. Let me find his inquiry. The one thing I kind of didn't really gel with from a narrative standpoint is why Michael Burnham's little kissy face there is so adamant to defend this guy. Like, and this is his character, he should not be a captain right now. Again, maybe he should have been a captain. Maybe he's the captain the Federation needed in the burn, but we're not talking about that. We're talking about now. And now he should not be a captain. He is responsible. He can be put in the scenarios where he's responsible for the lives of thousands, tens of thousands, potentially the Federation as a whole. And as a captain, he is reckless. He's proven to endanger the lives of those people. He has admitted that what he's done in that last episode is exactly what he's been doing for the past 30 years. That's the problem. He's reckless. Burnham has to talk him down like 2 or 3 times to not get his whole crew murdered, or like also the crew of innocents. He refuses to acknowledge that anything he did was wrong. Even though he might kind of believe it, but his heart is still in the right place. I don't know if this man should be fired. He shouldn't be put in the captain's chair. I also struggle, though. I think he should be demoted. I don't know if he should be a first officer, because a first officer is not captain. I think a first officer would be great. Put him... He's getting exactly what he needs. He needs to go under someone like, as much as it hurts to say it, Burnham, who is very much the captain the Federation, well, the type of captain the Federation needs now, in a lot of ways. We'll get to all the ways they aren't later. And see that it works, see how to do it. He needs that training, that experience in like the new Federation. But a first officer is going to be put in the position of a captain so many times, where he is the guy in the chair making the decisions. And that's, I think, just reckless endangerment of the Federation citizens, of the people who are going to be affected by Discovery's missions. I don't know what I'd do with him. But I think we could see good things with his character, like learning, hey, in this big arc of the chase, that actually we've all got this same shared heritage and we're not so different. The Federation isn't at war, and it's probably not going to be. Archer went through something like this, didn't he, in season 4? He got real jaded by the Zindi. Oh, he's a good actor. Oh yeah, I don't think I have any problems with his performance. I still wish that I knew if he was Romulan or Vulcan, because it's really hard to say the Romulan or Vulcan guy. This has been a problem for the past 7 years, especially nowadays where being in a Federation uniform means nothing, to like if you're Romulan or Vulcan. Like in the one sense, I get that it doesn't matter, and it shouldn't matter. It's a problem with me that I care. But also, I kind of care because how do I describe this person? Like, I have to describe them as the Romulan or Vulcan. And, yeah, I don't know. Probably not too upset to make him the character in the thumbnail, though. That's what matters. Oh, shoot, I might have to remove some rank pips if that's what I'm doing, though, because the thumbnail character is a captain. This is Season 2. Sorry, let's go back to Season 1. Skipping forward, I don't think I have much to say about this scene, actually. I mean, it really depends what they do with it. I hope Saru gets a happy ending, I hope this isn't set up for one of them dying, because I like them. We know this season ends in sort of like a very final tone, We know they got to film some an ending scene. It's gonna proper end. This is an Enterprise. But I guess my comments on here really depend on where this goes moving forward. Right. Red Directive, I'd actually forgotten about, but that's like secret mission, burn the records afterwards. I think it's something like that. Like Rios had it when he had to shoot those synths. I'm sorry I brought up Picard season 1, but it had to be done. So Michael Burnham wants to know what's going on. Fair. So she asks Tilly if they can find anything out about this box. First off, very weird that Tilly would have access to information that Burnham doesn't. Like, Tilly is a teacher at the academy. Burnham is a captain on a starship. Back in Voyager times, Voyager seemed to have every single piece of information known to the Federation on its computer. It had, like, Ferengi shipping records in one episode, which isn't even Federation. Discovery also has Zora, which is like a repository of 10,000 years of, like, some big spear boy. It's weird. I don't know. But, like, she's going against the back of her commanders again. It's kind of weird because I don't know where, what's his face? Kovarak? I don't know. You know, glasses man. I don't know where he sits. He's not like Starfleet, but he seems to be taking his orders from the president. So I'm assuming that, like, he, in this scenario, is above Starfleet. He, like, basically is the Federation. That's weird enough. Like, that internally the Federation's kind of fighting each other, but it's the smallest grievance here, so I'm going to move past it. Tilly decides to hack confidential Starfleet records, which, first off, nice to see Starfleet security has improved since the Dominion War, because she gets caught. But then, okay, the Admiral dismisses security. He has that authority. The Admiral then goes ahead, lets her do it. They claim that Tilly hacked the records. There aren't consequences for that? Like, Starfleet isn't gonna punish her, I guess. That's what we're saying. The Admiral's like the head of Starfleet, I guess. But they're still taking orders from the presidency. And there's no repercussions whatsoever from hacking secure government documents, like Red Directive level documents, because the plot needs there to not be consequences, I guess. Like, she didn't have permission, and she's new. That's bad enough. But that's a minor grievance because of this scene I'm on now. So Burnham, they find the diary. They read the diary. They know where they have to go, right? So Burnham goes up to Kovarax or whatever, and says, right, you're looking in the wrong planet. I know where to go. You have a team already. Loop me in and send me, or I'm not giving you the data. What? This works, by the way. Because the plot needs it to, I guess. So, what's Burnham's plan here, right? Kovarex agrees. I guess maybe he decides that Burnham's the best person for the job, but let's assume for a second, what happens here if Kovarex says no? Is she withholding information that she got on a mission to get that information specifically, using Federation assets, using her crew, that other officers are also indicted in? Like, they are on a hard drive in Federation property right now. Is she just gonna not give that up? Is she gonna be like, no, you don't get it. This is a Red Directive level threat. I am currently believe that there is an existential threat to the Federation. And I am going to withhold critical information that I obtained in my position as Starfleet captain using Federation technology. And I'm not going to give it to you and let you look in the wrong places across the whole galaxy for any pair of moons. because I want in. I'm a petulant child, but I'm the main character. Damn it. Oh yeah, that's right. I've done this before. I've got a history of this. Like, what? Kovacs gonna be like, no, hand over Discovery. Also, you're fired. Also, you're under arrest for treason. And also your doctor and your engineer who are helping you hide this are also under arrest and arrested. What, like, what does she think is gonna happen? What? It's baffling. Like, because she doesn't give him this information until he tells her everything she needs to know. And let's assume she's not. Are you telling me Michael Burnham isn't gonna like sit around? She's gonna be like, okay, I didn't get the information. Let's assume that works out for her. Is she gonna sit around and let the Federation burn? No. Like, she's gonna go out there and try and solve this herself. And the Federation would notice. Like, she'd steal Discovery and the crew to go to this planet, and then they'd know where it is anyway. Because I imagine the Federation can track Discovery. In fact, we know it can, because they got hacked in the next episode. We'll get to that. This is genuinely perhaps the most baffling plot point in the entirety of the series. And this is a series that has Ash Tyler in it. I get, right? I live in a Federation, you know? I get sometimes, like, the FBI, the CIA especially, they'll, like, hide things from each other. They won't work together. There's weird stuff that goes on. But I think this crosses lines, you know? Like, I don't understand this. But and of course, it's bringing back to Michael Burnham saying, no, I'm the main character. I have to be involved in every damn thing in the universe. Why, I don't know. Why, you know why you could have written this scene? Is, we know what you're after. Or no, we've learned a lot. Like, we have been able to figure out where this location is because we have gained knowledge that you were keeping classified. You want this mission to succeed. You want this to happen. The best way to do that is to loop me in. And I already know things because I've seen the diary, because I've read this mission. Therefore, to keep secrecy, I am the best person for the job. And I am also a capable captain, if a petulant child. No, I am a capable captain. That's how you could write this episode and not make Michael Burnham a whiny little 4-year-old throwing a temper tantrum. Like, it's frustrating. It really is. Oh, by the way, I haven't seen this season on trailers or like the next time on. I don't watch these. So similar to how we're going to shoot the French if they tell us about Prodigy, you know, we'll turn those firearms on you as well if you discuss them. No, yeah, I don't like looking at those. I like kind of going in blind. Episode 2. That's the wrong button. Episode 2. Under the Twin Moons, which, you know, in class, I know some people, probably no one, but some people are a little upset we're not doing the TOS watch-alongs anymore. Don't worry, we've broken orbital mechanics. Because I thought there might be a sci-fi reason these two moons are, like, locked together despite being in different orbits, but they're going at the same speed. Like, you know, in Picard, there's that octenary system that was engineered, and that's why there's 8 stars. No, that's just incidental. This planet has 2 moons that are in different they're in circular orbits with different heights, but they move at exactly the same rate. That is fundamentally impossible. That is orbital mechanics 101. If you're in a higher orbit, you're slower. That's fundamentally how physics work. This is a minor thing, but it really bothers me. And there are other ways you could have done it. Maybe these 2 moons were in orbit of each other, but also orbiting a planet. Maybe there was some weird sci-fi thing. Maybe there was a big space elevator connecting them. I don't know. But that just bothered me. Yeah, no problem, Jack Slaw. It's good having people. No, you don't make the job harder. I would wish often there was more disagreeing voices, because even like more controversial stuff, I'll often just say, and then like the 3 to 4 people in the audience are like, oh yeah, the regulars just agree with me. Because of course, if you're here and you're listening to me, you probably agree with my opinions. Like, you probably aren't listening to people who you disagree with everything they say about. But a lot of the best times I've had on this stream, you might have even been the person. Were you the one we talked about? Someone in season 2 of Picard. I had a big like hour or 2 discussion after the watch along about how you could make the Borg, Girardi's little voluntary Borg collective, ethical, or if you even could, because those are the great. And a lot of these times I ask the questions like, someone who disagrees with me, I want to hear your side, because I don't understand like this opinion. But I really want to get down to the bottom of it, Look at this guy. Look at this little Muppet guy. Casual alien racism. Whoops, there goes my credit card again. Yeah, that's right. I had to buy Paramount Plus again. So, yeah, I talked about this court scene already. Here's more Booker. I don't have much to say. Look, here's where you could have established that they've never seen each other. You had that whole conversation in the desert where it's like, you could have called. No, you could have called. Like, we established very naturally they've been distant and haven't seen each other. So that kind of clunky dialogue at the start just doesn't make a lot of sense. I don't know. I keep coming back to that, but, not a whole lot. Yeah, here's the scene I'm talking about. YouTube is compressing this even further, but this is really blurry and like fuzzy, as if you were hiding some sort of effects issue. Like, for example, I don't know, if there was some weird issue because of how the logo was cropped next to the S in season 5 and above the C, you would just move the blur tool over that so people don't notice it. Hypothetically, of course. It's like you're hiding bad CGI, but I know Discovery can do CGI. This, like, good. So it's weird. I don't know. In the shaky cam as well, that's another kind of trick to hide the flaws in your CGI, is to just blur it a little bit. I'll say I'm coming around to these displays a lot more. I mean, first off, I've just realized this isn't transparent, so 10 points to Gryffindor. But dang it, Harry Potter reference on live. I need to stop doing those. Trans rights, by the way. But these are the uses they work. I'm still not a fan of them everywhere, but I think maybe we've been doing this long enough that we finally found a use, like use cases in fiction. Because it makes sense. You don't want to lug your big computer around, so you get this map. It's maybe, I mean, I've said before, 3D maps are one of the cases where this technology would be really useful. But you don't want to lug like a 2D map around, and this is convenient. I found out recently, by the way, those screens in sci-fi that are just like glass, and they display stuff on the glass? I learned you can do that with current day technology. Like old current day technology as well. We've been able to do that for a while. I always thought it was still a bit sci-fi, but no, it's easy. The backlighting's a problem, but you can do it. And so I found it hilarious and vindicating that the reason they don't actually exist, obviously, is because they're horrifically impractical, and why would you ever want one? But apparently some of them are kind of going commercially, and they're being used as like art decoration pieces in lobbies and stuff, which, yeah, kind of makes sense. But again, for anything practical, you'll never beat, well, okay, almost anything practical. Like anything except rendering 3D, you will never beat these sort of traditional opaque screens. Well, just opaque. You could have a holographic screen if it's opaque. In fact, holographic screens would be useful. Just make them opaque. When body genetic mods were in reach, they felt like it would break us and pass laws to stop that work. Actually, I was quite happy to see the first ever human gene therapy. The first 2 actually were approved recently by the FDA for sickle cell anemia. Expensive as hell because, yeah, well, I think at least one of them are. I think they're both pricey. But, new tech, frontier, but it's good. We're putting CRISPR-Cas9 into people. It's a good first step. We're getting there. Hopefully I can be immortal later. My uncle always says you just gotta live long enough to where the average human lifespan increases by more than 1 year every year, and then you're golden. So, we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, we got those bones. Dude, we got more deer talk. Yeah, this guy bothered me as well. So this guy, who's in the middle of an inquiry, right? Like, he's in the middle of an inquiry, has hacked internal ship's communications for a ship, on the other side, well, far away, at least, in another system, to listen into the calls. I take it back. I complimented Starfleet security for improving, but this might actually be the biggest security violation in the history of the franchise. Bold claim, I know. Maybe I'm forgetting something. In fact, there was formation from Picard. I've just remembered, but yeah. I imagine if you're kind of new to Star Trek and you were just coming for this stream, I've name-dropped random things from across the franchise so many times and just expected you to know. Like, we're in deep. We're in deep here. Welcome. It's the season 5 of Discovery. You're not new anymore. Going on. But yeah, speaking of episodes, I actually thought this was the planet. I don't know who it is. You get it's the arms dealing planet. And there's like a holographic famous actor. What did he play? Who did he play? Oh, I remember. You're not gonna know him. He played like the history teacher in Better Off Dead. Which no one's gonna get that reference. But TNG. God, it's like season 1 or 2. Season 1 or 2. Season TNG. Arms race. Hide and seek haven. Victory by data lore. When the bow breaks? I don't think so. When the bow breaks? No, definitely not. Home soil? I'm gonna find it. I'm sorry, this is bothering me. Nope, that's a bunch of dead guys. Lonely Among Us? No. I'm gonna look at season 2, then I'm gonna give up. Where Silence Has Lease? Yeah, no, that's out. Okay, I give up. It's an episode where there's like an arms dealing planet and these probes come out. It's this. That's my point. It's this. It's a lot like that episode. I thought they actually went to this planet. Chat, help, please. But they didn't. And I don't even remember what the original point was. I spent too long looking up that TNG episode. Going forward. Oh, God. This got a laugh. This got a laugh out of me, right? I thought at first that the inscription was in, like, I don't know, UV. So, the name of the episode I was trying to think of, it doesn't matter. You would need, like, all the different species to kind of decipher the location. Again, it's the chase again, but, like, Saru could see it because he had his Kelpian eyes, but most species couldn't. Then they went with something else, but I guess that makes sense because it was the Romulan who made the inscription. Whatever. I was a bit disappointed. But, especially if you're copying the chase. Like, the whole point was you need a bunch of different species to find the answer. But, right, they've got this poem. They're looking at this rock. They've got 4 of 5 stanzas. They're pretty sure there's 5 stanzas. They're pressed for time. They spend, like, multiple minutes. I don't remember how long, but multiple minutes, trying to find the 5th stanza, right? They're sitting there. They're trying to think. They're examining Romulan culture. They're secretive. They've got those secret front doors, back doors, They've got these hidden like to hide things. I got it. I figured it out. Let's look behind the stone. God, I got a good laugh out of that. Like, that wasn't the first thing you checked. When they didn't show it on camera, I was like, that's a bit weird that they're not looking, like, behind the stone. But I figured it was so obvious. It just happened between cuts. I would have died if it was genuinely written behind the stone. Could you also imagine, right? You're the Romulan. You've written, like, a misleading poem pointing people to Betazoid for some reason. Like, you also could have gone to Trill just with those hints, but whatever. And you realize, like, you're hiding the 5th stanza. You want to make it a secret, right? So you just write it on the back. Like, what if they'd approached from the other side? They just happened to come from the back side, and they just found the last line. That would have been hilarious. It's still horrible writing that, like, they had that as a big revelation, even when it's wrong. The actual one was much more clever, but that was the best they could think of. God, I love that. Hilarious, 10 out of 10. I remembered as well, this was one of the patterns that showed up. When Tilly and Adira were analyzing it, there's a scene in the first episode. I don't remember what they're doing. It's Stamets and I think Paul. And there's a scene in this episode where there's a problem. There's like an intense situation, like Burnham and Saru are under fire. Oh yeah, it's the avalanche thing. They're trying to figure out how to stop an avalanche. Time is on the pressure. Lives are at stake. And you have these two people spitting basically technobabble back and forth frantically. It's like, no, this won't work. This won't work. This won't work. And then suddenly someone's like, aha, I got it. That was in both episodes. It felt... I didn't like seeing a pattern, especially one that wasn't particularly exciting to watch the first time anyway. And you could say, yeah, well, Star Trek episodes do have that a lot, where it's like they're trying to find a solution to a problem, but, like, this one wasn't engaging, because it was the same thing twice, and that same thing was random tech word, random tech word, random tech word, I got it. Or even in Star Trek, when they do those random tech words, you can often... if you've later in the show, you can understand enough to what they're saying, or they give a reason that's, it didn't work. It didn't work for me. It didn't work. Moving forward. Yeah. This was weird. First off, Zora, can you make a programmable matter copy of this? Of course. Let me make one at exactly the right size. Little gripe. Maybe it has dimensions written on it. Like on the sides, maybe these are measurements, but, you know, Zora's clever. Obviously, we knew what was happening, but maybe she worked it out. Burnham sees, like, the two things connect and goes, I think it's a map. And everyone on board is there. I've had this problem with Discovery a lot. She goes, I think it's a map. Everyone's on board. We're now discussing where the map leads, where it goes. What? I mean, of course she's right, but why does she think it's a map? Like, if you look at it, there's no indication to think it's a map. There's nothing written on it that we can see that looks like stars or anything. And if it is, you could probably figure out where it points without the last piece, but, you know, we'll get to that when it inevitably comes up. Wouldn't it be funny if it's on Romulus? That wouldn't make any sense, but Romulus blew up. Anyway, like, there are logical reasons to think it's a map. Like, a map would be something he'd want to split up. The map could have been what he found, but she doesn't voice any of those. She just states, I think it's a map. And everyone goes, of course, if it was obvious that now that you look at it, you go, oh yeah, that's a map. It could be a key, you know? It could be a puzzle box that's going to open up when you set it all together. Could be a bomb. I don't know. Could be a snack that just really burnt and hard. I don't know. Oh, she does have a birthmark. I didn't know what he was talking about. I'd never seen that. I love Saru's room, by the way. Again, the white makes every room worse. But I like that Saru's got this big planty room. It's all humidity. It's like he's adapting it to the climate of his home planet. It's interesting. I would love it if everyone's room was so personalized. Not necessarily to this extent where like you got plant room, you got library room, you got the guy who likes making eggs. I don't know. But I really like this. I wish the rooms felt more personal. Even in the other series, like in TNG, everyone's kind of got a basic room that, Worf's got like Klingon stuff on the walls. Captain's room's quite big. Maybe the Doctor's got crystal-y science stuff on the shelves, but they're all basically the same room. And I think this is true in Discovery, except Saru. But I love this. This is a great set. Weird he thinks he's going to get his old job back again. He's a captain who is, as he has said, resigned his commission. I'm sure if he wanted, he could get a commission back, but yeah, I wish it wasn't a month. Because he's doing this to spend time with his, fiance now, right? So why would it just be a few months? What's going to change in a few months where he no longer wants to be near the Vulcan president? He wants to go back on Discovery. I don't understand. What's changed in a few months is that season 6 was supposed to happen. Going on. I like Vance, his kids. He's studying geometry. This was good. I liked that they said she talked to Vance beforehand, because I knew it was obvious. Like, Burnham's gonna ask this guy to be his number one. But like, Burnham doesn't have the authority to do that. Burnham's like, oh, you just got fired? He got fired. You just got fired? Well, I'm going to unfire you. And congratulations, you're a commander now. God, you know what I've just realized that's really going to make me angry? He's still going to be a captain, isn't he? He's going to be a captain. Like, yes, under Burnham, but as the rank of captain, he still has the authority to order, like, other random commanders and stuff around. God, he shouldn't be a captain. It's just reckless of the Federation. And people are going to get killed, and it's going to be the Federation's fault. It's not even going to say it's this guy's fault, really. It's the Federation's fault for letting him do his thing. But I hope he has a good arc. I'm hopeful. They'll probably wrap it up this season. I mean, that's what they usually do. But I'm hopeful. Hopefully this will be like Shaw done right. I feel Shaw, as I recall, never really had a reason to be a dick. He just was, and the justification he gave was kind of poor. Like something with... Well, that was more why he hated Picard. But this guy actually has a reason to be the way he is. And he's still a bit of a dick, in a way he doesn't have to be. I don't think growing up in the barn, especially being a Starfleet captain, regardless of how bad it got, means that, like, oh yeah, you're just a dick now. I don't think it... And even if it is fully justified, I don't think it's as interesting to watch. I like my good old TNG style. There was a lot of banter I didn't bring up, where I'm like, I wish... You can have this banter. You're having the right type of banter now while still keeping professionalism. It's just in the wrong spots. Like, Burnham's line that she had saxophone lessons to get to, great. Top notch, 10 out of 10. Like all the others were mistimed, misplaced. That one got me, though. I like that. When she's on the ship, he's like, I hope you don't blow me up. I got saxophone lessons to be too. I don't know. It's dumb. Unexpected. I like it. Very Riker. You want to know where to put those, like, how to maintain professionalism while being a fun guy? Go study Riker. Go watch all the times Riker's in command and do that. And the saxophone joke was very Riker. Most of the others weren't. But I think we're coming to an end. We did 2 hours. I suspect the Discovery streams won't be as long. Season 4 was videos, and those were short. We often went sub 20 minutes. I don't have a lot to talk about for Discovery. I had a lot now because it's first season, 2 episodes, and most of it had to do with the fact we watched the 2 episodes together. So come early. Well, not necessarily early, but come at the start of the streams if you don't want to miss them. But Live discussion always increases time, especially if we get a back and forth going. But I'm looking forward to see that thumbnail with the layering. I got the arm set up. You see where it says red directive? I can make it go under the arm and above the face, but then it's covering my face. The fact that directive is the second word in that title is ruining everything. But no, it's good. Tomorrow I'll make the stream now. But we got Doctor Who with Caden, the long game, the week episode of the season. But no, you could come join for that. And I think this will be a nice journey. I think this will be a nice time. I'd be surprised if at the end of this, unless the ending is like really, really, really bad, if I'm angry. I don't think I'm gonna rage out like season 2 of Picard. I don't think I'm gonna absolutely hate it like season 3. 1 through 9 of season 3 Picard. Fantastic. Episode 10 was yeah, that's my review. But I think I'll probably be. I think this will be a very Discovery season, and that there was good, there was bad. The execution, had some problems, but it was all right, like I think that's how Discovery's gonna go out, which. Fitting, overall. I think individually the seasons can lean much more into good or bad, but that was Discovery, wasn't it? It got the feet on the ground. It got the ball rolling for all these modern series. There's good to it, plenty of bad to it. Hard to say if it's really a net good or bad in its own right. If you ignore the fact that it kind of got all these other series, but. It had a lot of problems. I think Star Trek as a whole, the other series have learned to move away from those problems and learned why they didn't work. But Discovery is kind of that weird one that's still sticking around. And they fixed a lot of problems, not a prequel. But it's still keeping a lot of that Discovery-ness. And I think, years down the line, we'll look back at Discovery in a sense, the same way we look at Voyager. Where Voyager, it's very classic Trek. But Voyager does got a lot of weird stuff, It's got a lot of weird stuff in Voyager. I think we'll look back at Discovery and go, not that it did weird. We'll be like, what, Discovery? It was Discovery, That's what we'll say. We'll say Discovery, it was Discovery. But I'm giving the eulogy about 9 weeks too early. In 3 months, we'll give it a proper send-off. And then in 10 years, I'll reach Discovery Season 1 on my watch-alongs. Because it would be interesting to go back. Season 1 and 2 are going to be a slog, but, season 3 and 3, it'd be interesting. God, I love that thumbnail art. Look at that. This might be my favorite thumbnail. And yes, all the characters are going to be in this format now, for as long as I can get Alex to do it. But I will say, thank you all very much for watching. What is next week? Do I still have Memory Alpha open? I don't. Who knows what the episode is? It's a shorter title, that's for sure. But I will say, thank you all very much for watching. And I'll see you next time.